We also have a brand new member that joined us tonight. It's Ted Brown. No, Zed Brown. Zed Brown. Zed, stand up. And his mom joined us, Teresa. And what's important, at least what is good to know about Zed, is he has already passed his FAA knowledge exam, and he's also soloed. Congratulations, Zed.
If you're an active flying pilot, please hold up your hand. That's up the rest.
Gotcha, Chucky. Gotcha.
How active.
Okay, if there's anybody out there who does not know me, my name is John Morgan, and I've been working in home-built camping as a camping host at Oshkosh for the past 11 years. And I thought a lot of people knew me, but after the event 3 weeks ago, everybody in home-built camping knows me, and everybody on the planet knows the airplane on the screen. I'll tell you why in a second. Oh, John, go back. Well, go back. So what you're about to hear is a public service safety message from NORAD and the Federal Aviation Administration.
Here, here.
Yes.
We want to make sure we can see who this amount is and broken all these crews.
Quiet, Kiwi.
That's not supposed to be part of it. Hold on, we got a route problem here. What is your sound?
You've probably been hacked by the FAA.
This is a paid political.
I'm unlimited.
We can't hear you.
You're right. Go up. Go up. Down up.
Oh, what's it at 16? Thought he was getting an escort back.
Captured the F-35 from Madison flying low Wednesday afternoon, intercepting a pilot who crossed into the restricted RNC airspace over rural Walworth County. The security perimeter spans 30 miles from the water. Local News has learned the plane came from northwest Indiana. Flight tracking software shows the F-35 escorted the plane to Oshkosh. NORAD, the agency who protects airspace in the U.S. and Canada, intercepted the flight.
The F-35 will pull alongside the aircraft rockets wings and signal the intercepts. And then the aircraft will then do a smoke turn to the desired heading to signal the pilot the direction it was to fly. Ideally, they have radio communication that can speak to the suspect aircraft and guide them outside the TFR area.
The plane was a single-propeller Vans aircraft RB-6A kit plane registered to a private owner in Atlanta who could be reached for comment.
Smartest thing you ever did.
Now, the FAA wouldn't say specifically if the pilot will face consequences, but said someone could lose their license over it or get a warning. The pilot was heading to Oshkosh. EAA and AirVenture tells us that they can't confirm it was for EAA, but they said they warned all of their members for months about the restricted area near Milwaukee due to the RNC.
I love how the EA took me under the bus.
Yeah. Of course they did.
John will have a whip round by your section.
John, did they take that picture?
That was a picture of the F-35. That wasn't me. Okay, this is a cartoon which showed up on EA 690 Slack the day after the intercept. And it is 100% correct. See how I'm smiling there? See the F-35 beside me and the other one behind me? I had no clue that I was being intercepted. I will proceed to tell you why. It's an amazing story. So, I busted what's known as a TFR, for all you non-pilots. That's a temporary flight restricted area because something was going on, either a presidential visit, VIP, something like that, a Braves game or a Falcons game. People are fighting forest fires. There's all kinds of different reasons for having temporary restricted. Then you have lots of restricted airspace also, which is restricted 24/7 all year long. And then you got the whole Washington thing with the SFRA, the Special Flight Rules in Washington, where you have to be squawking a code and talking to ATC and also flying through a specific gate to get to wherever you're trying to go. So my flight planning program, my electronic flight bag, if you will, is called 4Flight. And what you do with this is you basically bring a sectional chart up on the screen and you make a plan to stay out of all the restricted areas and all this type of thing. And then once you're actually doing your flight, then 4Flight for me, because I don't have a 10-inch screen in my panel, I just have it on my iPad. So I get all my traffic, I get all my weather radar, the TFRs, anything like that, I get from 4Flight. All right, here's a sample of a TFR. That red line over there is an Atlanta Braves game, and it's red because it's in progress. And then the yellow area is a Donald Trump visit for the next day. We won't talk about that. He kind of upset our governor a little bit when he came in. Not for this discussion. So if you click on that circle, you will see the times and the dates and the surface that you can go to stay out of that restricted area. You'll notice it says surface to 4,999. But this happens to be inside the Atlanta class Bravo, which is, the floor is 5,000 feet anyway, so there's no reason to make it any higher for that. Okay, I'm not a student pilot. However, all of us pilots who are actively flying should be student pilots. You should never stop learning, even if you're as old as I am. I mean, it's just something, you know, if you change your panel or whatever, put in a new ethos, there's all these 4Flight changes about every 2 weeks. So you really need to stay up on this type of thing. Okay, here's my flight in. What I did was I waited 4 hours on the ground in Atlanta for a thunderstorm to go away. And then I took off and I dodged thunderstorms all through Tennessee and Kentucky and southern Indiana and landed at an airport in extreme northern Indiana, which had pretty cheap gas. Right behind me was another RV-6A guy coming out of Florida. And we talked about the Republican TFR while we were fueling our airplanes. And I explained to him that it was in the NOTAM, which I'll show you in a minute, and and that if you flew to this particular airport and then flew north, you would be perfectly fine. So the other picture shows me camp with my little 7 by 7 foot tent after arriving in Oshkosh. All right, this is the expected TFR that the NOTAM referred to. You can see that yellow area around Milwaukee. That was what it was supposed to be. This is a sample of the F-35 which intercepted me. And this is the actual Republican Convention TFR after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, I've never gone to Oshkosh with a Republican convention going on at the same time, and I've never done it after an assassination attempt. So hopefully this won't happen in the future. But I gave you pilots an intercept card there, which basically outlines what that F-35 is supposed to be doing when he intercepts you. He did not pull alongside me. He did not rock his wings. He did not signal. He gave me what was called a headbutt. And a headbutt was he was about 150 yards behind me off my right wing, and he flew around in front of me at a very slow speed, about 200 miles an hour. F-35s are very quiet at 200 miles an hour, as opposed to when they're busting your eardrums out in afterburner flying over Oshkosh. So he didn't really, actually, if you look at that picture, I'm the fighter jet, and the fighter jet is the guy on the right-hand side cutting me off. But I'd never heard of a headbutt, and the FISDO safety director that I dealt with in my case explained that that's one of the things that they're doing now. Why they're not doing those other things, or why he didn't, I don't know. Okay, a few years ago we had ADSB, Automatic Dependent Surveillance broadcasts, come into all general aviation airplanes that are flying in controlled airspace. So you can see that flight number N613 Sierra Charlie on that transponder radio, the Garmin 335. So basically, everybody in the world who has some sort of flight tracking software, be it FlightAware or Plane Finder or whatever, they all knew where I was. They knew how fast I was going. They knew what altitude I was flying at. They knew everything about what I was doing when I knew nothing about what I was doing. It was really amazing. That's how the picture of the Smiling One came about, because it's on FlightAware. So as soon as they heard that N613 Sierra Charlie on that broadcast, they just popped up their little tablet. They looked up and say, "Oh, this moron is from Atlanta." This is the knee board that I was using. You can see those two phone numbers. One was for the U.S. Secret Service, and the other was for the Milwaukee Trade Conference. So upon landing, they didn't say, "Welcome to Oshkosh." First time in 15 years those words didn't come out of the controller's mouth. He said, "Go over to ground." I went over to ground. Ground control said, "Stop on taxiway P2 for instructions." At this point, I still don't believe I've been intercepted. The first time the guy went by, I thought, "Wow, isn't that cool?" And the next time he went by, I thought, "Boy, he must be bored." Because F-35s fly at Oshkosh all day, every day. So to have it this close to Oshkosh during AirVenture, it never dawned on me that I was being intercepted. So I pull off on the taxiway. He gives me the numbers. I taxi over to where I'm going to be camped for the next 10 days. And I get on the phone with the Secret Service. And he asked me 30 minutes of listed questions, including, "Are you suicidal?" I said, "Well, not for about 10 minutes ago I wasn't." Then the air boss pulls up, the guy who runs all the shows all week long, and he tells me that the brochure that I was following was for a Milwaukee Air and Sea show that was coming on the next weekend. It wasn't a convention at all. So after that long conversation with the Secret Service and talking to the air boss and the airport manager. 3 Winnebago County sheriff's deputies pulled up with their guns. They didn't have them drawn. And so they kind of walked over to me and they said, can we have your driver's license? And I almost said, I wasn't driving. But I didn't. I pulled out my driver's license and gave it to them, and they took it back and put it on their little computer, and they found out that I didn't have any record and I wasn't a terrorist. So then they come back, and they're supposed to be taking all the camping gear out of my airplane and searching for bombs and Uzis and machine guns and stuff like that. But they didn't. They just laughed, and they started asking about the airplane and how fast it was and what kind of mileage it got and stuff like that, what instrument did this and that. Then it just went away. So that just left me there wondering what in the heck had just happened. This is the 30-page, maybe, NOTAM that they put out every year for Oshkosh, which tells you, everything that you would possibly want to know to get in and out of there. Where those double X's are is the Republican National Convention directions. That is what that's like page 27 or something. And I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says, Milwaukee area TFR is expected for Republican National Convention July 15th, 18th. Then it has these black lines showing going through Burlington, Wisconsin, and West Dallas, and then following up to stay out of the TFR. Well, also when you fly into Oshkosh, you're not supposed to be talking to Milwaukee air traffic control above that dotted line, which is where I was. Now I had Chicago actually in the radio and I was monitoring them, but Chicago didn't try and call me. I didn't have guard loaded into the radio, and Milwaukee, of course, was trying to call me, but I wasn't on that frequency. So there shows that same dotted line, and I don't know how well you can see that sectional. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That blue line mimics virtually right on top of where I thought I was supposed to go. So, I did not load TFRs in floor flight for a week after I looked at them the first time when I was planning my flight. You see in that right picture, there's a FUBAR light there. Anybody who doesn't know what FUBAR is, it's an old line from World War II called "Fouled Up Beyond All Recognition." That's the clean version. And it's not hooked up to anything. It's just kind of like a gump chart for me. It's a reminder to stay ahead of the airplane. So why didn't I load those TFRs? Because I have domicitis. Now, I've met many people in all these years that I've been on the planet that I also think suffer from this disease.
Some of them are even in politics.
Yeah, and in this day and age, it seems that anybody who doesn't share your views and beliefs has this problem. And we need to get a little softer, people. We need to lighten up a little bit. I mean, this world is too much fun for us to be nitpicking the heck out of each other over some lot of stuff, little stuff. Now, my particular version of domicitis is myopic ignorance, lacking in foresight and discernment, narrow in perspective without concern for broader implications. So when I locked in on that NOTAM and that TFR, and Oshkosh showed me where I was supposed to go, even though I talked to that other pilot just before I took off from Indiana, I never pulled TFRs off because of this myopic ignorance. I saw another case of it just last night with the 4x100 relay team in the Olympics, where this guy got so concerned with not dropping the baton that he ran right out of the exchange zone and disqualified the American team. Even though they were so fast, if he'd just been standing still, they'd just still beat everybody else. So this happens. This is not an age-related condition. What you're looking at here is a 1983 Ford Escort wagon. Anybody remember those?
Yeah.
These came out in the Jimmy Carter years when gas lines were around the block at all the filling stations in the country. So if I had a guy standing next to this little station wagon, you can see how tiny it is. It's about the size of that table where Ralph is sitting there. It's really, really small. Well, 40-some years ago, I was taking the family to Disney World in a different car, and I'd stopped for gas to fill up the tank in this car. And while I was in there, you didn't have pay at the pump then. So I went in to pay my bill, and I saw a road atlas there, so I thought, gee, I need that. So I got the road atlas, and I'm walking back to the car, trying to figure out how I'm going to get from upstate New York to Florida. And I jump in, and I throw the road atlas in the passenger seat, fire up the car, drive away, rip the gas pump completely out of the ground, broke the gas line underneath. There's fuel shooting 30 feet in the air. EPA has to come in for 3 days to clean up the mess and put in a new pump, and my insurance company was really not happy. So very early the next morning, I file a NASA report. Anybody who doesn't know what a NASA report is, it's with the new Pilot Bill of Rights. It's the get out of jail free card, where you say, I'm a dummy, I screwed up, this is what I did, I'm really, really sorry, and I'll never do it again. Well, in talking with the safety manager at the Milwaukee FISDO, he said he doesn't get the NASA report. Well, if the guy who's determining my fate doesn't get the report, who does? My next stop was with ForeFlight, my flight planning application. Garmin Pilot puts TFRs on there automatically all the time, whether you want them on there or not. ForeFlight does not. You have to turn it on in the selected items in the menu for what you want the app to do. So I go to ForeFlight and I say, well, why aren't you like Garmin Pilot and have this thing on all the time so dummies like me don't screw up? And he said, well, we're not sure, but we do have...
Boeing, that's why.
What?
ForeFlight is owned by Boeing.
Oh, so it's all Boeing's fault. Okay, well, I guess it could be Boeing's fault. I'm not going to go there. But he said, we do have these audio alerts, which are in your menu, and I went back and I looked and I saw that there are audio alerts, and I get traffic alerts on audio all the time. But this alert said that if you're 1,000 feet above the ground and you're within 5 minutes of flying speed of the TFR, you will get a TFR warning alert. I got no alert. So I'm in Oshkosh, and you know they have like 1,600 forums there, so I thought I'd go ahead and close the barn door after the horse is already gone by attending a TFR seminar conducted by the Royal Canadian Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Boswell. So I walked in there, and I did learn a lot more about TFRs that I didn't know that I'm going to share with you. Anytime that you are squawking a discrete code on your transponder while communicating and receiving instruction from air traffic control, such as flying on an IFR or a VFR flight plan or on flight following, you can fly through certain areas of TFRs. Okay, if you can see the bottom part of that card, you see that straight line across. The middle section of that is the no-fly zone. You can't go in there regardless. But in that 30-mile range, the one that I went through, I was about 25 miles from Milwaukee when I busted this TFR. And in no time did I ever go anywhere near Milwaukee. Of course, had I turned towards Milwaukee, maybe the F-35 behind me would have shot me down. I don't know. I certainly hope not. But you can't go across the edge if you're talking and squawking. And if you're taking off or landing with a discrete code, you'd have to be on a flight plan in order to take off, because you wouldn't be able to talk to ATC otherwise. Or you can land, probably even with flight following, and go into that area. But if you're not talking to ATC, don't go. Okay, then Lieutenant Colonel Boswell said, The NORAD booth is right over there. Everybody know what NORAD is?
North American Radar Defense.
Okay, it's North American Radar Air Defense, and primarily in the 50s and 60s when we were hiding under our desks in elementary school for a nuclear attack, like that was going to do any good. NORAD had all the fighters and the missiles to take care of the Russians coming across the Bering Sea from into Alaska and into the United States. So I walked in I talked to Boswell first, and he said, I want to talk to you after the seminar, but go over there to the NORAD booth and tell those people who you are. So I walk over there and I say, I'm the one. There were 3 girls and a guy in the booth. Their eyes got as big as $50. You thought Paul Newman walked into the booth. And they immediately started asking me all these questions about what happened, how did you do this? And I explained to you what I'm explaining to them. They just shook their head. They had me sign an intercept card. So I'm reasonably famous, and I've got all of them with me. If anybody needs a cup or a pen, I especially like the little squeezy thing, in case I got nervous. So for future flying, I'm going to do a lot more IFR flying, a lot more VFR flight plans. I will always have 121.5 loaded in the radio and the latest update on my 430 WASP. And I will have TFRs turned on in flight even when I'm not flying. This is a little thing I got from John Kimmons. You can see this TFR in traffic on the left-hand picture and how much clearer it is if you take the sectional out of it. So after I've done all this planning, that screen on the right is what my iPad looks like. It's uncluttered and I can easily see other traffic doing it that way. If you don't do it that way, I would recommend that you do, provided you found out where all the TFRs were in the first place. So be talking and squawking. You can see I got a discrete code. This was on a flight back from Indianapolis earlier this week. And then you see 125.1 is the active comm, and 121.5, the emergency guard channel, which I wasn't monitoring, is in there with the monitor button on. So you'll hear all this guard traffic even though you're not actually listening to that frequency. But anyway, all I heard about was sky. It was probably Charles. I don't know who was a bunch of skydiving operations. Conclusion: because of Senator Inhofe from Oklahoma, who gave us the Pilot's Bill of Rights. He just died this year, by the way, but he did us all a great favor, and the FAA has become a much, much friendlier group than they used to be, I think primarily because of that. But the process was, I got a phone call from the Milwaukee FSDO safety manager explaining what I had done and the process that I was to follow from there. Then he sent me, I had a lengthy phone call with the FSDO safety manager explaining exactly what happened. And then he emailed me, or he had me email him all of my medical records, my flight review records, everything about me and the airplane, so he could check and see whether I was telling the truth or not. And then finally there was an exit interview with me giving this safety talk, which I will give more because I'm going to have to, because he actually wants a video copy of it. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but anyway, that's what's going to happen. So the biggest lesson I've learned in life, don't ever think it can't happen to you. If you want to Google me on YouTube, I do historical presentations. These two came from the 8th Air Force Historical Society. They're about an hour long. One is on Curtis LeMay, which I've done here, and one is on Robert Morgan, no relation, the guy who flew the Memphis Belle. Questions? Joe?
How many F-15s do you own now?
How many F-15s do I own?
Now?
I don't think I own any. What do you mean?
Well, I assume that they must have some fees or something that 30 pounds. Oh, F-35, no, whatever the
It's
hell.
an F-35.
Oh, okay.
They said it cost them $100,000 to intercept me. I think if that's the case, they're spending $2 million a day up there flying around Oshkosh. Other questions? All right, you've been great.